I want to thank everybody for gathering this afternoon. We are going to provide an update on the February 21st Shockoe Bottom shooting. We are here to announce that we have brought 3 people into custody who were involved in the shooting deaths of the 2 people that we lost on February 21st. Chief will provide more details on that in a minute. I just want to say a few things. First, that our hearts collectively break for the senseless violence that our community is facing. Our hearts break for the families that were impacted by this violence. This is an incident that just did not need to happen, right? This was a conflict that was fueled by alcohol, that was escalated by quick access to guns, and the whole thing absolutely could have been avoided. We are thankful for the efforts of the Richmond Police Department, the investigators, and all of those who submitted video evidence that helped us get to the point that we're at. And obviously, these things take a whole lot of partnership. And so thankful to our partners in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, ATF, FBI, all here standing with us today. I really need people to know that Richmond is absolutely against violence of any kind, and that if it happens, we will ensure that we do everything we can to make sure that justice is delivered. I want people to come to our city. I want people to have a good time. I want people to be down in Shockoe Bottom. But I want people to know that you are welcome, but your guns are not. Let's please band together as a community to keep our city safe. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Rick Edwards. I'm the Chief of Police. Today we're going to be announcing the arrest of 3 individuals for charges related to the 2 individuals who were tragically gunned down in our city. So first, if you go to the next slide, James. So Drayvon Jackson Brown, age 25 of Henrico County, was just arrested minutes ago and taken into custody. He has been charged with first-degree murder, malicious wounding, and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony ×2. If you go to the next slide, Carlos Johnson Jr., age 26, also of Henrico County, has been charged with the exact same crimes: first-degree murder, malicious wounding, and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He was arrested previously. These charges were taken out on Thursday. We were looking for these individuals, and 2 were arrested as of last night, and as I mentioned, 1 was just arrested minutes ago. Next slide. Shaquan Morris, age 22 of Henrico County, was charged with first-degree murder and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony ×2. So if you go to the next slide, these are all 3 individuals. We do not have a booking photo yet for Mr. Jackson Brown. We will get that to you once he is processed at the Justice Center. And what I'll say, and the mayor said everything that I would like to say about this tragedy, and it starts with easy access to firearms, individuals who are engaged in fights that lead to tragedy like we saw. And this was an incredibly difficult crime scene to manage. This was an incredibly complicated case. That's why it took us 2 weeks. So to the members of the media that have been inquiring to James on a daily basis for updates, I thank you for your patience. But we needed that time to work with our great partners. Today, the mayor mentioned it, but today we have Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Ian Kaufman, here today. We have Resident Agent in charge of the ATF in Richmond, Joe Norman, here. I'd also like to personally thank Henrico County Police, Petersburg Police, and the ABC, who all took part in this investigation, who all met with us numerous times, who all picked pieces of the puzzle and helped us come to a successful conclusion today. And my message to everyone, just as the mayor said, if you come to our city, we want you to come, we want you to enjoy yourselves, but the guns need to stay at home, because you can never make a good decision if you're armed and intoxicated. And unfortunately, that's what we saw. And we've seen this around the nation, too. There's been recent mass shootings in other cities, very similar situations. So we're asking people, as the weather gets better, as more people come out, to come out and enjoy yourself, but leave your guns at home. And now I'd like to introduce the Commonwealth Attorney, Colette McEachin.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very pleased that these 3 individuals have been arrested so promptly by the Richmond Police Department, along with the help of all our other law enforcement partners. I commend the Richmond Police Department and Lead Detective DeBoard, for all of the conversation that he, Deputy Mike Holloman of my office, and Senior Assistant Brooke Pettit of my office have had in working with the Richmond Police Department to identify and best pursue these individuals in a safe manner. Obviously, I can't and will not talk specifically about their cases, but I will say that now that they have been charged, they will go through the public criminal justice process that is available to anyone to see or to look up online. They will be brought before the court on Monday and arraigned. They will receive attorneys or ask to retain attorneys, and then they will have those attorneys to represent them as their criminal defense attorneys throughout this process. So I look forward to the criminal justice process doing what it does, which is providing public safety and also protecting the constitutional rights of those people who have been charged. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office also wants to extend its sympathies to the family members of the deceased and to reassure everyone in the city of Richmond that we will prosecute these crimes and all crimes to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Newbille, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the president of the Richmond City Council. I first want to again extend our heartfelt sympathy, as you've already heard, to the families who experienced this incredible, horrific, and senseless loss of life. At the same time, I want to just thank our police department under the leadership of Chief Edwards and all of the partners who worked with us to as quickly and diligently identify, apprehend the individuals who were the perpetrators in this instance. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you for that. Richmond, as the mayor said, it's an incredible city. And Shockoe Bottom is an incredible place. And we want people to come, to visit, to experience the restaurants, to experience the businesses, the activities, the events, etc. But we want you to leave your guns at home. That is not a part of the experience that we want in our community. And we had just incredible feedback from our businesses, from our restaurants through our meeting the last week of February, and then the implementation of several of the strategies with more to come, consistent with their feedback as to what are the things that we can undertake to ensure that we increase the safety, prevent violence, allow for the enjoyability in a district that's phenomenal, in a city that's phenomenal. And so, again, I want to thank everyone involved. And while we will be continuing to work with our businesses, we also need the community to partner with us. We need the public to be a part of the partnership and say, coming to Richmond, any district, leave the guns at home. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we'll be happy to answer some questions if you have any.
Y'all said beforehand in the previous press conference that there were multiple shooters. Do you think that you've caught all the shooters, or are you still looking out for more?
The investigation's ongoing. We do believe other people had firearms and were discharging them, but we do believe we have held accountable those that were responsible for the deaths.
You mentioned at the public safety meeting a few weeks back about the use of flock cameras. Did that play a role in how you guys were able to apprehend these three individuals in 2 weeks' time?
Yes. So, like, whenever this happens, whenever we have a a critical incident like this, what happened before even the first officer got on scene was members of our Capital City Intelligence Center started looking at camera footage. And they were identifying cars, and Flock LPR was used as part of that matrix, that they were able to go through and provide tips to our officers about vehicles leaving the scene and identifying those individuals afterwards. So yes, it was used, just like it was used very effectively in a case that we just had yesterday for a murder trial or murder sentencing, where we were able to identify a car within 33 minutes of a person being pronounced dead. We are identifying that person and making an arrest. So it is a tool that is used every day in our city to great effect.
Just on my yeah.
Is there anything we can say about the disagreement itself? Do we know if they knew each other beforehand or not?
You know, that's part of the investigation that I really don't want to get into. I will say that this sparked off outside of the clubs. That's a question we continue to get. Did it start inside? It doesn't appear that way from our investigation, but to go into those kind of details is something that'll come out in the trial.
Can you speak to the individuals who were also injured? Is there any updates on any of them?
All the individuals are in non-life threatening status at this point, so we're very pleased about that. Originally, we thought there could have been more fatalities, but we were lucky.
I also know that y'all increased patrols around that area. How long are y'all going to extend that increase?
So we had planned on a tactical operation to secure Shockoe Bottom leading into the Shamrock, the block date, so St. Patrick's Day. We had a very large crowd in Shockoe last year and had multiple shots fired there. Thankfully, no one was shot, but we had already planned that. We moved that up, though. As Dr. Newbille expressed, you could have seen the large increase the next weekend following this incident. We will continue that process. Some of the changes that we heard when we canvassed the neighborhood, Dr. Newbille and I spoke to probably every business owner in Shockoe the week after this and took their feedback to heart and took some of it, some of the questions about staying a bit later, we took that into account, so we will be down there longer. The other thing that I heard loud and clear from many business owners was, for the last couple of years, we've brought officers from all over the city to protect Shockoe Bottom, from other precincts, from the school resource officers to detectives, and they would have to do a tour of duty. And what we found is that, some of those officers didn't really know the bottom, didn't know how to get people in as easily. So we listened to that and we've changed it. So we will have now only first precinct officers securing Shockoe Bottom, taking those officers off the street. So we're going to supplement through overtime 911 call response and emergency response. So we have a whole list of individuals that are going to volunteer or voluntold to come out on these Fridays and Saturdays to run calls. So the first precinct officers who are there every weekend get to know how to manage that process, are consistent, and that's just one of the things that we implemented from our community after hearing their voices.
I want to know if I heard you all correctly. Mr. Jackson and Mr. Morris were arrested last night. Mr. Johnson was the first to be arrested Thursday night. Mr. Morris was arrested early Friday morning. I believe Mr. Carlos Johnson was arrested early Thursday morning, Mr. Johnson was arrested Thursday night. Mr. Morris was arrested early Friday morning, taken into custody. Mr. Morris has not been arraigned to my knowledge, and neither has Mr. Jackson Brown. That will likely be on Monday.
I know you probably obviously want to protect the family's privacy as much as possible, but any word from them now that you made these arrests?
They've all been made aware of it, and I think most people were pretty frustrated with it as the days went on without charges. So I think that this will bring some sense of closure to the families that are involved and to the individuals who were traumatized by that day.
I also know that y'all are making, y'all are making an effort to basically stop guns from being in that area, so you have to either not keep them in the car. So can you kind of explain that a little bit more, just kind of where that is, what progress is on that?
But if you're talking about the law, I think we have talked about that, and I want to be clear that it's currently, there is no gun-free zone in Shockoe.
The issue with that is it's very complicated to do that. There are people who actually live in Shockoe now, and it used to be more of an entertainment district solely. Now it's, we have a huge apartment complex there that just came in. We have other apartment complexes around there. So how do you stop someone from possessing a firearm in an area in which they live? So one thing, we're just asking people who are visitors to not bring their guns. And it is still, as of last year, the #1 spot where guns are stolen out of cars. Shockoe Bottom, Shockoe Slip. Most of our guns are stolen from there. So obviously, it is not a safe way to store your weapon. There's currently legislation requiring people to safely store their weapon in their vehicles, so we're definitely in support of that. But we're looking for all solutions to this. But a big part of it is reaching people, reaching the community, and letting them know that if you're walking around illegally carrying a firearm, we're going to charge you with it. We will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And I think it's important for people to understand that a lot of people think that carrying a gun, even open carrying a gun, makes them safer. What we've found is that it's often, instead of a shield, it's more like a magnet for attention and quite frankly, for bullets sometimes.
Oh, also, y'all have asked the community to kind of work with you essentially on like coming up with solutions for Shockoe Bottom. How can people, if they do have ideas, if they want to talk to y'all, how can they reach out? How can they, yes.
So we had a meeting the last week of February with the businesses and others in Shockoe Bottom. And so we will have another follow-up meeting on the 19th. But what we did in that meeting was to articulate, and the chief and his staff carried out what are the immediate strategies that we can undertake to try to mitigate the impact that and the kind of incidents we saw. And so that first weekend, the additional cameras, the additional lighting, then what are the intermediate and long-term? And so we will be coming back to the community to address many of those recommendations. In addition to that meeting, the chief and I also visited each of those businesses and asked about the recommendations that were made at the meeting, but anything additional. And so have, certainly recorded those things, and we'll be meeting to bring back responses. This is, we are serious about the general safety, health, and well-being of folks in our city, coming into our city, and certainly into Shockoe. And we're committed, the mayor, the council, all of our public safety professionals, to work together to make sure that we minimize and eliminate, eliminate those kind of activities that I'm having to send condolences to families we're having to send condolences. So yes, we have follow-up meetings and strategies that we're going to implement with the community.
I noticed for the most recent suspect who was arrested earlier today shared the last name of one of the victims. Is there any relation between the two?
Yes. He is the brother of the male decedent.
Question for you, Mayor. In addition to some of the solutions that are currently in effect, I know one of the solutions that you talked about through the Office of Gun Violence Prevention is that kind of ambassador program. Any update on that you could provide?
Yeah, I'll actually invite our director of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, Greg Hopkins, is here, and he can give an update on where those efforts stand.
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greg Hopkins, Director of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. As it relates to the ambassadors, this initiative spawned out of what we saw last summer coming out of spring break and even coming out of the summertime activity. The ambassadors people will work with nightclub owners, promoters, DJs, and the goal is to promote positive interaction. When we have individuals that patron businesses, bars, clubs, we want to make sure when they come into that door at that operations that they have an opportunity to be promoted with positive campaign awareness about peace. The goal is to protect your peace, protect your vibe that night, making sure that during that time of last call for alcohol, that there are some opportunities where we can have those inputs. Hey, it's a good time we have here tonight. We want you all to get home safe. We don't want to have a situation where people let out in the clubs and they go out in the street. It's going to be RPD's responsibility to clean it up. We want to prevent that. So when we start this process, working with DJs, club owners, promoters, when they start promoting these parties, we want to have our fingerprint on it. To have the first opportunity to say, hey, look, we want people to have a good time, but we also want folks to be safe at the same time. And you'll see some things coming up in this April as we start engaging our partners. One is the night market. Operation Safe Shaco will start off from April all the way through December 2026. So look, like Councilwoman said, we have some strategies that we're working on, and we'll continue to fine tune it, but it's going to be with the help of our community members.
I know you all were saying that the investigation's ongoing, and how will RPD and the city measure success going forward, and any kind of details in the investigation you could talk about going forward?
Well, like I said, it's ongoing. There were, I just really have to stress the complexity of this case and the work that was done by the Major Crimes Division. So the lead detective, as mentioned, was Jacob DeBoard, but his sergeant, Mike Goldman, the entire A team and those forensic investigators were out there for hours and are continuing to work. They haven't had a day off since this incident occurred. And the goal is to get to the truth of what happened, not to come to some conclusion, but to find the truth. And through some of the technology we have, the videos that members of our community have sent us, we've been able to get to part of that truth, but it is still ongoing. So I think what success looks like to me is being able to stand in front of those families and tell them what happened. So.
Would anyone from the ATF or FBI care to talk about their role in this investigation?
Good afternoon. I'm Ian Kaufman, the Special Agent in charge of FBI Richmond. Our role is one of a support role, so we're acting in that capacity. We've established a tip line for members of the community to provide still images, videos. We're conducting analysis of those images and videos. We've also had Richmond Police Department share video with us, conducting analysis of that video. So we're creating a timeline and putting together a product that can be used in the prosecution of any offenders in this investigation.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Norman. I'm the RAC of the ATF Richmond office. ATF is also in a support role. We are using NIPE and E-Trace to assist Richmond in any way we can. Thank you.
Last question that I have is, obviously we have to increase police presence, and you guys mentioned it multiple times that you want individuals to leave guns at home. Are you hoping that, between the increased presence, the use of SWAT cameras, that all of those serve as deterrents? Because there are many in the community who say they feel unprotected when they don't have a weapon with them, especially when things like this happen.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the message, that if you're, what I would say, if you're so afraid and you're going to a social event that, maybe that's a clue that you shouldn't go. If you're bringing a gun with you, if you feel like that's going to make you safe. I don't want to get into the details of this investigation, but I'll tell you that many of the individuals, you saw their names. I'm sure you'll be able to look in the court records and realize these are not hardened criminals. These are people that brought guns to a social event, found themselves in a situation, and made terrible decisions that cost two people their lives and wounded other people. So I would push back on that. I mean, we see it time and time again. You are not protecting yourself in most instances by bringing a gun to a social event. You are exacerbating it. And as I said previously too, if you're armed, you cannot engage in a normal fight. This could have been just a normal fight where we had some bumps and bruises, people go home about their lives and forget about it, but it ended in over 50 shots fired because people chose to engage in a physical fight with guns in their hands. And, so I would just push back on that. And then if you're walking up to a fight with a gun in your hand, people will perceive you as a threat and can use deadly force against you in some instances. So I just would encourage people to think before they act, to make the decision to leave your guns at home. And if you're finding yourself getting in a physical fight, I know it might be hard to say this, and many people don't believe, but they should walk away. This was not, I mean, every murder is tragic. Every murder I've ever investigated is tragic, but it's even worse when it's pointless. If someone robs someone and it escalates and there's a murder for that, or even domestic violence, at least that makes sense. At least that is part of the crime. This is just people making terrible decisions with profound, everlasting results. So it's even more frustrating if that can be said.
Would anybody like to just any like last words essentially? Because as I was going and talking to community members, they said that I guess they were kind of happy to hear that people have been arrested, but again, it doesn't really bring much solace. Doesn't really, I guess, do anything for them yet. So is there anything else that y'all would kind of like to add for the community members who are kind of still skeptical about, is this problem going to be fixed?
Well, I think it's constantly for us, a cat and mouse game. We are a Band-Aid on this problem. By the time the police get involved, someone's already been shot. I think what Greg can probably talk about, and certainly the mayor, the programs we're working on to try to dispel violence before it escalates to this point. So that's what I would say.
So it goes back to community awareness. How do we reset community norms? When I'm growing up in Richmond, I always had opportunity to follow through or go over to behind DMV. We had a good time back there. We also had a good time at Bird Park. And then that escalated into where we are now down in Shockoe Bottom. Our goal is to do the prevention. There's 3-level prevention: primary, secondary, tertiary. The primary piece is how do we engage our community members and get them to have a little bit more responsibility and a stake in this violence prevention effort here in the city of Richmond. And that's going to go with community awareness campaigns, either through social media, radio, as I mentioned earlier, how we engage our nightlife folks, getting them on board. Oftentimes, we are always in reactive mode, meaning that a crime happened, police come, and folks scratching their head, what can we do next? The question is, how do we get there before we have that question about next? And that is that engagement piece. So hopefully, as we move into this summertime, we're going to have folks on the ground, for particularly those folks working with our businesses, our communities, and neighborhood, not just Shockoe, because we have crime in other parts of the city that we want to make sure we have folks feeling safe. So that's the plan.
Well, I guess the closing thought I'll share there's clearly the prevention approach that Greg talked about. There's clearly the enforcement approach that Chief has talked about. We will continue to lean into both of those and use as many tools as we can on both the prevention side and the enforcement side. But there's also a behavioral and cultural change that needs to happen. And part of the work that we're out here doing every day, part of the messaging we're doing to our public is that this needs to stop. Right? We need this to be a place where people can enjoy themselves, where people can connect to other people in community and do so without ending lives needlessly. And so we just need to leave the guns at home.